Hello everybody, I thought I'd do a little show on how to wake up, which I've had a few people getting in touch saying, oh, you make everything sound so easy, and it's not easy to wake up. And I know during 2020 many people suddenly found their spirituality or began to wake up to what could be going on in the real world and what their point is in life. And I didn't really know where to start with all this because it is a big subject. It's very difficult to say in a sentence. I've had people in the past saying to me, explain waking up in one sentence. Well, you can't. It's difficult to do. It's really for those that have the mind and the impulse to want to do it, and this is why people like Gurdjieff calls people asleep, because most people don't want to think beyond what is going on in their own daily lives. Okay, if you just want to live day by day and don't really want to see what the point of humanity is on this planet. I recently put all the Maurice Nicoll audio for Living Time up, and there is a bit in there where he discusses there are three types of people: those that want to wake up or go on what would be the vertical line. If everything's across, the vertical line is ascending back up to the divine source, finding your path to get off this wheel, as would be said in perhaps Buddhism or whatever, this wheel of life that goes round and round. There are those that just live day by day along a horizontal line and just live for this life only and think of nothing else of what could be beyond them. And then there are those that are I'll go into them another time actually, because that's quite a big subject. But for those that want to come off the horizontal line and start going on the vertical line of going upwards to whatever humanity is here for, the main thing it involves is a lot of work on oneself. And, I've been lucky that I kind of found this path when I was young. And so I've studied a lot of things. I'm not saying I'm an expert, because I'm not. I get things very mixed up and very round the wrong way. As I ponder on stuff, which involves a lot of waking up, is pondering on what things mean. We don't exactly get the answers directly. We have to think about it and work it out for ourselves. So there are people there to guide us and books there to guide us. And thankfully, we had the Gurdjieffs and the Steiners of the past, Rudolf Steiner, George Gurdjieff, to prepare us for this kind of work. But I'm going to come from the Gurdjieff work today and do a little bit about effort. And I'm going to start off with a little quote. Lay up for yourselves treasure in heaven. And that's from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 20. And Gurdjieff goes on to say, my usual inner struggle with the lawful refusal of my nature to submit to my consciousness. And our consciousness plays tricks on us all the time. It doesn't want us to wake up. It throws us imagination. It throws us thoughts from the past. It suddenly springs upon us things that we haven't thought about for a long time, that are quite in the secular or materialist vein, as if to distract us from ascending or working on ourselves. And this is why it takes a lot of effort. It takes effort to stop that imagination. It takes effort to, when you suddenly get a thought from the past of, oh, do you remember when you did this and what a fool you were? It's really difficult not to suddenly start thinking about it and being distracted by it and let it, bring up all them emotions again. So we have to find ways to stop that kind of thing. Is stopping the right word? I don't know. Or when it comes up, to be able to deal with it in a way that doesn't drag us back down into what's going on. Instead, we need to live in the moment of why is it doing this? Which is why Gurdjieff says we have many eyes in us, many different versions of ourselves. And I know most people say, no, I know who I am me. But actually, we're different people every day, that we have different personalities inside us that come out, that spring out of us. And one way of saying it is, you have your work head on when you go to work, to your day-to-day job. You have your head, the version of you of when you deal with your family. And when you're with your friends, you're another version of yourself. So when you're working on yourself in a spiritual or in this kind of way of development, you have to find that I'm going to call it the esoteric side of yourself, that will work with yourself and put that head on. And that head easily gets distracted by mundane things. But to do this, you need to put a lot of effort in, which is something that Gurdjieff talks about a lot. The effort is a way of making yourself aware of being properly conscious, not just your everyday conscious of I'm alive and going about and doing my day-to-day things. With an development, you bring in a different kind of consciousness where you are truly awake to be able to absorb it. And it's again, I'm going to say it again, it's hard work. But I'm just going to do a little quote, because it's not just being conscious, it's using your conscience. So conscience is going to come into this quote here. Those who had already sensed the divine impulse, conscience, consciously by their reason and unconsciously by the feelings in their subconscious, when had full confidence that by certain self-efforts, this divine being impulse might become and forever remain an inseparable part of their ordinary consciousness. So, like I was saying, you put your esoteric head on and use that part of your consciousness to work upon yourself. And I'm saying esoteric, but it's just an easy word to use for the moment, of the part of you that wants to develop, you know, the part of you that knows that there's more to life than what is going on in the day-to-day realms, which is a lot of what all the inner teachings of religions are, and philosophies of, you know, the great philosophers, of how to be the real you. The real I in me is the real one that wants to get back to the divine, not all these personalities. Gurdjieff calls it essence, your essence. So there's two other versions in yourself, your personality, of which can be many I's, and your essence, which is the real I, the real one that we're trying to develop here. And he says here that no conscious work is ever wasted. So when you're working on yourself, it accumulates and makes an energy inside yourself that hopefully will come back again and again for you to use when you're working upon yourself to wake up. Which is why it's, you know, there's lots of YouTube channels which discuss this kind of thing, and how to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and things like that, which are all good. They all help if they're positive development. And if you can bring them in and I was going to say embrace, then I don't know if that's the right word, into your body, into your consciousness, so that it awakens your conscience, so that your conscience starts acting for you and with you, not against you. Because he also says no effort is made in vain. So any effort you make, even if it's just a little effort on each day, will accumulate and grow, and each time it will become more easier. And when you need to use your conscience, it will hopefully come together. Without struggle, no progress and no result. Every breaking of habit produces a change in the machine. And those that study Gurdjieff know that Gurdjieff says we're all machines, we're all robots, automatons, just going about day by day, thinking we're in control of ourselves, when really we were just following patterns. And it's these patterns which need to be broken, that are not developing oneself, keeping oneself on the horizontal line instead of taking us up to develop to our higher selves. So what was I going to say then? so it does take a struggle to bring yourself out of the horizontal line and to get onto the vertical line. We're lazy beings. Humanity is a lazy creature. So we need to struggle and make effort towards developing oneself and breaking of habits, such as finding distractions not to do work, not to work on oneself. Finding, you know, something comes along and says it's going to do this, instead of going and doing your qigong or your yoga or your meditation. And also, like when you're doing your meditations, well, then thoughts are coming in. When we're doing meditation, should be thinking about nothing, so that we can let the higher self come down and come in. Our weak essence can change at any moment. But the mind depends on very few influences, and so with a little effort, it can be kept in the desired direction. And that's again coming back to the effort of and the struggle of keeping oneself focused on one's path, of one trying to develop oneself instead of being distracted. So the science of being is not given for nothing. It costs a lot. And in the marketplace of real values, the only currency is real effort. We are talking of efforts to free oneself from useless tensions, to free oneself from the tyranny of automatic associations, to protect one's attention from the unfettered crowd of suggestions which butter us at every moment. And we get constant bombardment of thoughts, feelings, we should be doing this. What's for dinner tonight? Why did that person say that about me? Why does that person not like me? Them kind of thoughts are distracting us from developing ourselves. And I know I went through a phase of, I want to develop myself to help everyone else, but really we need to develop ourselves to help ourselves before we can help anybody else in a spiritual sense of, waking people up. People can invent all kinds of methods and means. They may even undertake asceticisms and torture themselves. But all these efforts will be useless if they are not carried out in a certain way. Precisely that way, they will lead to transformation. And we torture ourselves with, like what I was saying earlier about the thoughts that come into our minds, or our past memories of when we made a fool of ourselves or when someone hurt us. And we need to learn how to deal when that comes in and not be attached. Gurdjieff talks a lot about attachment, because when we become attached to things like that, then thoughts, then feelings, then memories, that's what holds us back, because we're going back into an old pattern of what that thought, feeling or interaction did to us in that time. And instead we need to be able to examine it and see why we felt that way, or why we thought that way, or why that interaction affected us in such a way. And I can't remember where I was going to go with that, but anyway, I shall carry on with that same quote. Efforts of a special kind are needed, and these vary according to the surrounding conditions and the time. Knowledge cannot come to people without effort on their own part. Work is the only thing that is not subjective to recurrence, otherwise it is not work. And recurrence I've done about in the Maurice Nicoll books, of recurrence of we live this life over and over again. And say we do, and each time, hopefully from the past life where we've worked on ourselves, that energy and effort will come into the next life to help improve our next life, to help us develop and hopefully get off the wheel or develop ourselves so we go on to whatever should be next, instead of keep coming back again and again and again. Right, so now I'm going to do a question and answer session from Ouspensky. So Ouspensky was asked, I can't by any effort I make reach a state at all like the states that come accidentally. And Ouspensky says, yes, but you say it comes accidentally. If it is what I mean, it comes as a result of your efforts, previous efforts, only it comes not at that time. But if you had not made effort, it would not have come accidentally. The more efforts you make, the more you have these accidental moments of self-remembering, of understanding, of being emotional and things like that. It is all the result of effort only. We cannot connect cause and effect in this case. And that's what I was saying about when you get the sudden memories or sudden instincts of something from the past. It's how we let it affect us. It's how we let it work upon us, where we become identified and we become attached to things. And, we're just trying to develop so we do not become identified or do not become attached to it. Probably we cannot connect because of many small things, identification, imagination, or things like that. But the cause is there and will find a moment and bring results. We must never expect immediate results. It is necessary to work for a long time and create some kind of permanent standard in order to have these immediate results. If we could, by will or desire or intention, become more emotional, then we would see many things differently, but we cannot. We are very low emotionally, and that is why most of the work we do now, even if we really do it, can have no immediate results. But something always remains. It is not lost. No effort is lost. Only it must be followed by other efforts and bigger efforts. We cannot become more emotional, but it is possible to use emotional states when they come. This is what we must prepare ourselves for, which is why working on yourself and having the struggle and the effort accumulates, as I was saying earlier, and then starts making things work inside yourself. Your emotional mind, your intellectual mind will start working together, and then your moving body will also come into it. Again, I know I'm talking about things that probably Gurdjieffian people will understand more, because I know perhaps it's easy to sit and listen to a YouTube channel, as I was saying earlier, but it's even better to go back to the actual core of all these teachings of these teachers, you know, like read the Gurdjieff work, read the Steiner work, or listen to it. There's loads of audio versions of them out there. Most of them are online for free now, because this is work that should be there to help people. Right, so I'm going to have a quote from C.S. Knott. Each time we make an effort to bring our attention back to ourselves, to what we are doing, to remember ourselves, the centers become connected. And as we connect them centers, as I was saying, we become more harmonious in ourselves and become more aware of what's going on, and our consciousness becomes more alive and more awake. I was going to do another Knott quote. In this work, it is as if one were beginning again and again. Each time you make an effort, you acquire a little more spiritual muscle. Like a child learning to walk, you begin again and again. And this work is infinitely more difficult and complicated, but results are guaranteed. We must remember that because of the effects of the organ Kundabuffer, we suffer from a kind of spinal disease which affects us as opium would, hence our difficulty in making real efforts. We are born sane, but become insane through the influence of our elders, through the desire to do as others do, through education in the wide sense, that enemy of the human race. And I'll just quickly explain the Kundabuffer is something that Gurdjieff talks about. He says we were given a Kundabuffer in early humanity, and it was to distract us from the real world for a while. And we lived in a different kind of world of seeing things upside down. And that Kundabuffer was removed from humanity, but still humanity liked it so much that we still live in it. We love our imagination. We love seeing things upside down for some reason, where all this work that I'm talking about, and Gurdjieff and Steiner and such like, is to wake oneself up so we see the real world, and working on yourself with effort and the struggle that comes with it will slowly open your eyes up to see what is the real world. In esoteric terms, it's lifting the veil of Isis so we can see what is really going on, who we really are, what we're really here for. So I think I will leave it at that. And I know it's very brief and it's a big subject to go into, but I do advise people actually go to the core teachings of the work. And good luck with it all, and let's all work together. May your gods go with you.